Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. In this special video, I have a guest with me. Her name is Marai. She recently cleared her PMP exam. And what interested me the most in the whole thing was the fact that this was the 2022 exam. So she's cleared the new one. And Marai, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about yourself, your experience, and your career so far?
Okay, thank you, Joy. I'm an interior architect and I've been managing projects for almost 10 years. I'm 34, so I started early. And when I was newly graduated, I started to work on creative jobs, but I got the chance to start leading projects and people, and I like it a lot. And I grew up really fast, but I didn't got any proper education for that. So I learned on the hard way and I create my own empirical knowledge. And recently I decided to point some new goals to my career and I started this journey.
Excellent. So you're not from the usual project management background as such. That's what I noticed because you're from architecture, right?
Yes. And we basically do projects, but and we study projects on university, but not in this particular meticulously process and stuff. So
Yeah. So a lot of people that take up the PMP are actually from either the software background or the construction sort of background, and that's why I really like the industry that you are part of. But any specific reason? Yeah. Go ahead.
But you know what? Now I want to study coding or something. Because
Okay.
all of the people that I met while I was studying and all of the things that I read, it's amazing. Now I'm trying to study coding or something like that.
Yeah. When you study Agile, it's more to do with the software industry. So that's why.
Yes.
Anyway, so why did you decide to take up the PMP certification? I mean, there are a lot of certifications out there. Any specific reason why you selected PMP?
It was for a funny story because when I realized that I didn't have these proper studies for management, I started to look for a master's degree on project management. And after I researched a lot of schools, they were all like, okay, it's 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And at the end, you can take the PMP exam. And I was like, what? Yes, the PMP exam. So the PMI will give you the certified of a project manager. And I was like, but I'm studying with you. Why don't you make the exam for me? And it was like, no, that's the most recognized. And then I started wondering, like, why are they all sending me to make an exam with another institution, right? And I made my own research in LinkedIn and all the job applications and stuff. And I realized that it was the most recognized. And I decided to skip the degree and take only the PMP exam.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people that join the software industry and they kind of speak to their colleagues, they get to know that, okay, PMP is like the most recognized certification out there. PMP is definitely the number one most recognized gold standard when it comes to project management. Glad you took it up. And how did I understood you just said that you did your research and LinkedIn and all. I assume that's how you were able to find PMC Lounge as well.
No, it was really funny because after I took my preparation course, I started to study with Rita's book. And well, I found out that I had a lot of questions and no one to ask for help. So I went to YouTube to start looking for all the concepts that I was missing. And it was really funny because there was always a PMC Lounge video for the topic that I was studying that day. So for example, it was like, okay, today I'm gonna study scope. And I was like, okay, I should learn about the scope requirements. And it was like PMC Lounge. And then I was like, okay, but the process and everything was always like that. And I was like, okay, this guy has everything. So I started to look only directly on the PMC Lounge YouTube page.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you just mentioned that you studied Rita. Any other books that you referred to?
Yes. And I studied the Andy Crow book,
Okay.
like, what's the name? How to pass your PMP exam on the first
The
try.
first attempt, yeah.
Yes, but I think I like Rita's better because I think maybe Andy's book is for someone who already understood a lot of things, like all the concepts and stuff. I mean, it's a really easy book to read,
Mhm.
but you need more when you don't have this proper education. Like, for example, even with Rita's book, that's why I started looking videos because I didn't understood everything. And
Yeah.
I saw your videos and I think you explain like in a simple, concise, but also wide way. And there are no gaps. So after I completed this Rita book and your videos, then I read Andy's book just to reaffirm, or I don't know. Yes.
Mhm. Great. So you read Rita, you watched the videos, then you went to Andy Crow. How much time did it take to prepare for the exam?
Well, it actually took me 6 months, but I did it in three phases.
Mhm.
The phase one, it was 2 months for the mandatory PDU conventional course, which took me 42 hours. And with this one, I only got an idea, a general idea of what I was getting into.
Mhm.
And then when I finished that, I started the phase two. And
Okay.
it was a whole month when I tried to study on my own, but I didn't know where to start from. And I was like terrified about having to memorize the 49 processes and the 1,452 inputs, tools, and techniques. And you start doubting a lot about yourself. Like, I won't be able to do this. Who can actually do it? It's because I didn't get the master's degree. And after that month, then I said like, okay, I'm not gonna do it this way. I have to start and let's see what happened. And then I bought Rita's book and I started to study full time. Well, full time in a regular way. I'm an adult. I work full time. I have a family and friends and everything. So people get sick,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have birthdays, etc. And and I started to study even 2 3 hours a day, but regularly it was like 14 hours a week, some weeks less, some weeks more.
Mhm.
And but in these hours were sometimes reading, sometimes watching videos, or probably making mock exams. So it
Mhm.
took a lot of hours, but it worth it.
Excellent, excellent. Love your story there. So you did all your preparations, and then how about mock exams? Did you take any mock PMP tests?
Yes.
Mhm.
I
How
took
many?
tons of mocks, tons.
Okay. Mhm.
And when I started studying, I only took the mock test at the end of every chapter of Rita's book
Mhm.
and the ones of the website of my preparation school,
Mhm.
because they got this campus and you can actually take a lot of mocks. And when I finished the book, I took a lot of mocks that I found online.
Okay.
There are apps for the cell phone and
Yep.
things online, books, etc. And I took as many as I could. And I think all the mocks have a different point of view of the PMP exam topics.
Mhm.
So there is no waste on taking them. But as a warning, don't
Mhm.
measure your knowledge only with mock tests, because some days you will only get 50 right answers. And even 1 week before the exam, I was making mocks and only getting 50% right. So I was así, panic attack. And this doesn't mean that you don't know you know, it only means that this mock have a different point of view, and maybe you hadn't seen this point of view before and learn about it, but don't measure your knowledge with this. And because it is a roller coaster of emotions. So one day you get 90% and the other 80% and the other 50. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, mock tests are a universe of their own. There's a lot that we can talk about just on the mock test side. But good that you took a ton of them. And any specific number of days or weeks that you spent only taking mock tests, like 1 week, 2 week? How many days did you spend taking just the mock tests?
yes, I think the last 2 weeks I only
Mhm.
took mocks,
Okay.
but when I saw that I had a gap on any topic, I was going back to read that chapter or watching a new video or reinforce that area. I actually read the Agile Practice Guide again one day before the test.
Okay. So yeah, that's why you're now interested in coding. I think I've read a lot about software. Okay.
Yes, but it was, I think it's the strongest part of the exam, like knowing about Agile and hybrid. So it's
Yep.
worth it that if you see during your mocks that is not your strong area, read a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, funny that you talked about how there's a lot of agile and hybrid related questions in the exam, because I was coming to that. Let's talk about the PMP exam itself. Uh, so typically people say that most of the questions in the exam are scenario based. So they give you a scenario. This has happened. Now what should you do? What should be your next step? How many percentage roughly of scenario question did you see on your exam?
Okay. I think maybe 90%, but it's worth saying that the exam was very fast. So, and I was super stressed and super nervous. So maybe I don't recall everything properly, but I will answer as accurate as I can. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So
I
you're saying
think maybe
that
90%.
maybe 90%. Okay. Yeah, that's roughly about how much others also say when they walk out of the PMP exam.
But I have a point.
Mhm.
The questions might be scenario based, but sometimes the answer is really straight. Like, you
Okay.
know, the typical question with 3 or 4 lines of scenario, but the answer is really simple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
So
would
some of the
you do
questions,
next?
yeah, some of the questions they tend to add a lot of red herring, a lot of extra text which is not even required. Sometimes the answer is straightforward, name of a concept, that's all. But yeah, that's PMI's way of kind of trying to confuse and trick the aspirants.
Yes.
How about
And the
mathematics?
answers were also scenario based.
Yes, yes, totally, totally. And how about mathematics or calculation based, your earned value and those kind of questions? Did you see them on the exam?
No mathematics and no calculation, like
Mm-hmm.
0 questions. I only remember one question about the earned value method.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not about doing math, but I wouldn't recommend skip learning the formulas because you need to understand how to get the numbers in order to answer properly.
Mm-hmm. Excellent,
I mean,
excellent. Yeah,
you want to math, you want to numbers, but you have to understand what each number presented to you means.
means. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Love it. So then let's talk about Agile Hybrid. You mentioned how you had to study the Agile Practice Guide 1 day before the exam itself. Did was that helpful? How many questions did you see from Agile or Hybrid area?
I think probably 50 or 60% of the exam is agile or hybrid.
Mhm. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, because that's what even PMI says now.
Yeah.
How about so earlier when I took the PMP exam, you just used to have simple questions with multiple choice answers. Now they've introduced new type of questions. You have questions that may have more than one answers. You may have graphical questions. So how many such questions did you see in the exam?
Mm, I think I only got 1 or 2 multiple answers,
Okay.
but they were easy because they told you how many options to choose.
Okay.
Like you have to choose 2 from this. And it was like, okay, or choose 3. Okay, you choose 3. And I don't know, it's like a regular question. And I got one graphical question and it was like super easy. I hope they have more.
Cool. So I think people should not be worried about these new type of questions that they have now. If
No, not
they,
at all.
Mhm.
Not at all. It's the same. Instead of having one right answer, you will have 2 and they will ask you to choose 2.
Okay, yeah, that helps. So, how
Yes.
about the overall difficulty level of the exam? If you were to look back today uh, at the exam itself, how difficult or easy do you think was the entire exam?
Maybe if we rate it from 1 to 10, I will
Mhm,
say like it's only 3 if you studied well.
mhm,
But this 3 is because of the time,
mhm,
because you need to answer like very fast without waving and answer quickly. It's a real challenge for us, the ones who
mhm.
study, but it's only about that, like choosing the answer and going next, choosing the answer and going next. But if you didn't study, I will say like probably an 8, because if you take the exam only with your working experience, of course you will have some right answers, but I don't think a lot of people can pass without studying, because you will have to think more, and not only you will have wrong answers, I don't think you even will finish the exam.
Yeah, I mean, time is also a constraint, but PMP remains to be one of those exams that requires you to be committed when it comes to studies. You cannot pass the exam without studying, as you rightly said.
No, not at all. Not even with a master degree on management. I don't
Yeah.
think.
So you've studied a lot. You have done it. You have studied 2 books. You have watched hundreds of videos, and you're now a PMP certified project management professional. Do you think
Yeah.
all of this hard work makes you a better project manager? Now you know of stuff that you didn't know of earlier, or maybe use them in your real life project as well. Do you think overall you're a better project manager now?
Yes, yes, of course. I think having an international standards give you a wider vision to make wiser decisions and to take more appropriate actions. And this usually is translated on money and time. So who is going to complain about saving money and time?
Yeah. Totally. And then, so you took 6 months to prepare, right? Do you think during the course of this 6 months, something happened which you thought, I should have known this earlier? So, is there anything that you wish you knew before you started your PMP exam preparation?
Yes.
Okay,
I
what is it?
think that taking the PMP exam is a proof of resistance. It's not about intelligence or experience or whatever we think when we start. And for me, it was about discipline, problem solving, and not giving up. And it's funny because these are the skills that we perform when we're managing projects. So I think we should take out all the ideas that we have when we're starting to study and find what it works for us. But it's not about having experience, so don't get frustrated if you don't have it. And it's not about being like super smart. It's about being committed with your study.
Excellent answer. Just loved that answer, because that's so not just your preparation for PMP requires that, but as you rightly said, real life project management also requires qualities like these. Now,
Yes.
I would love it if you could give us 3 tips that come on top of your mind when it comes to those who are preparing for their PMP exam, the PMP aspirants. Any tips for them?
Okay, I hope the PMI doesn't take away my badge after saying this. But I think the first one will be like don't read the whole pen book. Read enough to understand what people talks about when they talk about the pen book and this famous book that is the guide for everything, but don't read it. Just use it as something that you can rely on, but that's it. And I will say, like, read the whole Agile guide, uh, maybe one or twice, and but after you understand waterfall or predictive.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah, I think PMBOK guide in itself, it is like an engineering manual, right? It just tells you what schedule is, what scope is, but it doesn't give you any examples. It doesn't, provide any real life instances. So yeah, a lot of
No,
people
and it
tend to.
can be really intimidating, like watching
Exactly.
all that. Like when I saw all the inputs and tools and techniques, and you start reading all that, and you say, like, do I really need to memorize all that? But
Yeah.
no, when you read something else, like you realize that it's only a guide and you have to understand, but
Yeah.
that's it.
It's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. So really like that tip. So thank you so much for your time today, Marai. I really
And
appreciate it.
I have
Yeah, go ahead.
some others.
Oh, go
I
ahead. Go
would
ahead.
I would say also a tip would be understand instead of memorize,
Mhm.
because I heard a lot of stories about people who uses their first 5 minutes on the exam, like writing all the formulas and the 49
Mhm.
processes, but I don't think that is necessary, because if you understand everything, you won't need to do all that things, and you will have those 5 extra minutes to focus on the questions.
Yeah.
um, 5 minutes can be reviewing 5 or 8 hard questions, and those questions can make the difference between passing or failing.
Mhm.
So don't memorize, just understand everything. And the other one, I will say, like, don't study a lot of hours if you don't have plenty of time, but try not to skip studying more than one day. Even a small
Mhm.
video or a small mock test will keep the knowledge fresh, and you won't need to read all over again all the things that you forgot because you quit studying for 1 week, and now you don't remember the last chapter.
Yeah.
So for the people who works, like, try to make 5 or 10 minutes when you're getting lunch or something, and before sleeping, everything, like, just don't quit, never quit. And finally, I will say, like, the extra one is being patient with yourself. I mean, you will know when you're ready to present the exam, and at the beginning it looks like it's going to take years to understand all the process and all the information, but the day will come when you feel
Mhm.
confident enough to program your exam. And
Mhm.
of course, 1 week earlier you will have panic attacks every day thinking that you're not ready, but remember when you felt ready and
Mhm.
hold on to that. It's going to be a
Excellent.
long road.
Excellent. Excellent. Loved that answer, especially the last bit. I think excellent answer there. I think this is definitely going to help a lot of people who are our audience and who are preparing for their PMP exam. So thank you so much, Marai. Really appreciate it that you took the time out, and I'm happy that PMC Lounge videos help
Now,
you.
thank you, Shoaib. You really helped me. You were my private tutor with all the answers that I needed when I needed. Like,
Mhm.
it didn't matter if it was like 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. and EST time or E time, whatever. I learned a lot about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks. I'll catch up later.
Yes, thank you.